Alright, I'm going to walk you through taking apart the Lenovo All-in-one. Kind of looks intimidating, but once you do it a couple times, it's not bad. This is going to be my second time. First time was just testing. So what we're looking at is the bezel here has clips along the edge. And then goes back to the back here. I like to remove that so I don't put pressure on it and break it. There's 4 little screws in here. There's 3 near the base of it, and then there's a long stem that comes off of it. There's 1 midway down. And I've seen with the students, they do break these when they sit there and move it back and forth. So just taking it off, you'll see there was a screw here about midway down the bar. And there's 3 more right here, if it makes it easier to see. So, and then that gets this out of the way. This is kind of where the hard part comes. I'm going to get some new units that I can, or more for moving, like molding on cars and stuff that's stronger, and see how that holds up, because getting in here and getting the pieces apart is kind of a little chore. I would also recommend putting down an old towel so that you can keep from messing up the old screen. But you'll see all I do is I'm getting in here and pushing the bezel away, and it works away pretty good. It's the first time, and it's really hard to get off. I'm not going to joke, but I'll show you how it clips on there, and the reason why I want to get a bigger, stronger wedge, whatever you want to call it. Now, I apologize. This part over here needs to come off first, and it's on just the same way. Just get in there with your wedge and push apart the clips. Takes a little coercing to get it open. With a bigger, stronger clip, it'll work better, but you'll just see it has the little ridges that clip onto here. So that's all you're pushing off, is off these. So you got that out of the way, and then you're going to see if I can get it adjusted. I don't want to lose too much here. There's a screw right here. I'm going to set the screwdriver on it. It's right there. That is holding on this part here. That's really actually the only screw that's holding on that part. If you don't take that off, you end up doing what I did, and you just snap it off. So that's why I put that back on there, to show everybody. Now the rest of it is just working it off. If you haven't, make sure you take out these 4 screws. They'll keep it on there. And back here in the back, pretty much the same way. I like to push forward, which helps to pop loose these, which are down in the little groove there. they'll easily pop loose. But you'll see, yeah, it's hard, but that's why I'm hoping a stronger tool I can push away these instead of breaking a couple of them. But they're pretty strong. They're still holding up after the second time taking it apart. So now the back is off. Here's our rib cage, whatever you want to call it, that attaches the that holds onto the seat, the computer. So this part here doesn't need to come off. You can, well, sorry, yes, you do have to take it off, unfortunately, because the screw is under it and you can't get to it. So at this point I would actually recommend taking off the silver cover here. There's 2 screws here that hold it together. That way, I'll look again, but you may not have to take it off. I can't remember what screws are under it. Yeah, so let's go ahead and take it off. Alright, so what I wasn't doing that I would recommend is off here to the side, start them in a row. As you see, I got the 4 screws. Let's move over here. I got the 4 screws that were the first thing I should have taken off, which was here on the outside cover. Then the second thing I took off was the little lip that held this on. The third thing to come off was this, which just popped off. And then the last thing I did was that little screw that popped off there. So now I'm kind of keeping my screws in a row. You see I got a few extra here as to what goes where. Now I have taken off the single screw that held on this arm, and then the 2 screws that held on the silver plate. And this way you just, once you go put everything back in order, you're going in a straight line, putting the screws back in place. It'll make it a little easier to remember where stuff goes. So, alright, silver plate is off. The next part, sorry, I'm going to move you back over here. The next part we're looking at is this. I would take that off just to get it out of the way. It's going to be 3 screws around the outside. They have little rubber washers, so just let those kind of stay there. I'll put those next in the group. And then see, it just pops off once you get that off of there. Well, let's go back to the plate on the back here. I've got 2 screws here at the top. So next in line is going to be my plate. Alright, well, the rest of the plate is actually attached under the little system board here. So I'm going to have to take those screws out. I'll go ahead and line those up as next. Come here. Alright, so there you see the system board is now loose, and you can see the bottom where these two screws here, from the first time I took it apart, go here, but they didn't make it back. So they'll go back in the row with my plate. Now as you see, the plate doesn't want to move because I have this part over here still attached. There's actually 4 screws, one here, here, and here. Go ahead and remove those. Now, you'll see there are, it's kind of hard to see, but out of the 4 screws that you take out, there's one that's shorter. That one that's shorter goes here on the, I guess you'd call it the neck of the plate. So you got long, 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 and then a short one here. And that should just help you remember if you get them mixed up. Now the plate, it just pops loose. It's got little guides, so the next time you put it back, it goes right back in there. And then the shell comes off for the hard drive or system board, so we can put that aside. Now we've got all the screws removed from the back plate. There we go. Now, this is just to work away around, sorry if I can get it, around the edge and pop the back loose. So just get your wedge under there and just kind of work it. As you work around, it'll pop out. This is probably the easiest piece that popped out of the whole thing. Kind of get your thumb under there, get you a little bit of leverage. Now the reason why I say probably do this on a towel, especially when you're putting the new one in, because when you go back, you grab a little bit of the edge and push this back into the clips, which if you don't have a soft surface for that new screen, you're probably going to pop it. Let's see if we can get in here. Come on, work with me. There you go. So, are we shaking up there? Yep. I'm gonna try this with a bigger wedge and see if it's easier to get in there and pop it loose. This one's kind of small. Not really the best quality either. Alright, there we go. Alright, now that I've got this loose, just pick it up and it pops right on out. Get it out of the way. And from here, what we're going to do is, since we're putting in a new you are some funny stuff. There you go. Just pull out the edge for the monitor. And then going down this direction, here's the connector for the light board. So we'll go ahead and disconnect the light board. And then you'll see it kind of looks like you need to take all this stuff out. You actually don't. You just want to get this loose of the light board because the light board is attached to the monitor backing that's going to come off. Now from here we have 9 screws. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. These 9 screws, you'll want to loosen up right here to get that off. Before we do the 9 screws, let's actually do let's talk about the centerpiece here. This is the centerpiece. There's 4 screws that hold this on. So let's go ahead and take that centerpiece loose. Now I see where I originally messed up when I was putting it back together. The 4 screws that go here are actually these. So I need to put those back in line in the correct spot. That's looking better. Alright, so now the I guess you say the back mount for it. This would be where it mounts to like the wall and stuff. Is loose. And now we need to release the monitor from the tiny bezel, if you want to call it. Put all 9 of you right here. Where'd you go? Get over there. Alright, as you can see from here, once the bezel and the middle arm is released, all I gotta do is pick up on the top where the camera or the top of the screen would be and just kind of slide down. Come on, slide out. Let me show you why it's sliding out, if I can do that. Because the monitor actually kind of sits down in there just a little. So that's all I'm doing, just sliding it out. Now, I did notice, I didn't notice it the first time, you'll see the little ribbons for the light board and the little ribbon down here. They are kind of sticky or glued to this piece. So you'll want to go ahead and pull them loose and let them go loose. And that's the monitor, the LCD that keeps cracking on everything. So let's go back to putting it back together. I have my new monitor. I'm hopefully sitting it on something like a towel or something. And I'm going to lay the bezel on. Kind of use its little section right here. Work it back under that groove. And it should go in very, very easily. You shouldn't have any resistance or hard work to get it in there. And let's go back up. Let me show you. I had my row of screws here. So let's just start working our way back up the screws. I first have my 9 going around the outside. All right. Making sure my tape is in a good spot. Now I'm going to add back my 4 screws here. Keep the mount in place. Yep. Oh, and while I'm here, the model number for this screen is M215. H is in hotel, A is in alpha, N is in Nancy, 01.1. I found them online from anywhere from $80 to $160, so I'm just not sure of a trusted place to buy them yet. Maybe Parts can find us a trusted place. So now I've got that put back together. I'll go ahead and reconnect my screen. Which is enjoyably fun to get in there. And then let's get stuff up here where it sits. Let's go ahead and put the light board cable back in there. Make sure that's sitting good. Now don't add any other screws here yet until you start putting back on the mount, because 2 of the screws are under the mount. Not only to hold the mount on, but also where the board attaches to. Alright. Now, see, this is why this is the second time I've done this. I haven't yet put this on. So, let's continue on in good fashion. Yes. I have this on. Next up, my screws are going to be the plate in there, which attaches after the big plate. So from this point, once you line it up, you just kind of push. And that's what I was saying, something soft would be good. As your base, or just kind of hold it and slightly push on the bezel. And it goes back in with little resistance. Okay, so that's back. Now we got our top mount. See where everything fits. Now, in the order that I did, I had these 4 screws next. So I'm going to do the little screw, the one that's smaller than the rest of them, and then the 3 larger ones. Excellent. Then next in line, just kind of set that there, is doing the screws out here. But I'm going to kind of change this up and see, there's 2 screws here that are under the system board, the system board screws, and then 2 screws for the top up here. So I have to do 2 under the system board. I think you just go ahead and do all 4, but when you're taking it apart, you can't get to these 2 bottom ones until after you've taken the system board off. So choose whatever direction you want to do it. Yep, it would actually be better to do the system board and then take these 4 off. Alright, now the system board is pretty easy. 2 of the holes that it goes in have kind of a groove on them, so it'll help you figure out exactly where it needs to be. Alright, next to my row are these 3. Alright, and then the next are the screws for the silver plate. So, just pop that back on. All right. That's the one with the groove. Okay. Now next is the cover, which goes with the next screw. That's why keeping it in a row is pretty good, because I saw the screw there. I just had to figure out what it went with. Next, we can do the big plate, because I've got everything else in place. And the big plate just goes back on and do a nice gentle push. It'll pop back on. It's easier down here where you can actually give it a little bit of leverage without touching the screen. And now the next part is this, which just pops back on. Pretty easy. Oh, there's the other one. Okay. Remember I told you about that famous little part I broke off trying to figure out how to get it apart? This screw goes back on before this. If you don't remember it, it holds up. So it's your choice. Then last is going to be putting this piece back on. which is the screws. If you get them mixed up, it's the screws that look like it could go through or cut its own channel. That is the wider threading. And don't do it too hard because it'll quickly strip out the plastic. If you do end up stripping it, just throw a little bit of glue in there with it. It'll set itself. There we go. Excellent. Okay, and that puts me back to the 4 screws that go in the back here, which I'm really not going to put them in. And as you can see, it's all back together. Of course, dirty. And this is the one that's cracked. You can see it's still spider glassed. So, but that's taking apart and putting back together the all-in-one Lenovo's. Total time so far has been 32 minutes. So it's doesn't take really that long. But you just have to be careful. Hopefully watch this video, see where you're going to need to do stuff. And then I'll let you know how the bigger, stronger wedge work to get down and do stuff. So that's it.